switch over to, or?
Well, no. So, okay, that's a great question. I mean, yes and no. So like in Heroic Week, for example, where before you dealt with Titan Forging, let's say you got what would be a 440 item. You couldn't trade that item if it Warforged 5 eye levels, but you could trade it if it's the same eye level, just corrupted. That doesn't alter the loot trading rules, right? So that enables your splits a little higher. The RNG element, at least in the last statement that Ian Hazzikostas made, was that they were reducing it to a level where it was static. If that's the case, then I honestly think it could end up being a lot less of a grind than it has been recently, to feel like you achieved your best gear at the end of a cycle, or you're fully prepared going into the next raid, or maybe for you just like continuing progression, like you feel like you're getting meaningful upgrades. I think the corruption system, I don't think they're going to go with it past this expansion, but I think it's a really big step in the right direction away from Titan Forging for sure.
And by the way, I just want to kind of bend your ear a little bit since you kind of missed the beginning part of it. But
sorry, yeah.
No, which is fine. But especially for high-end rating, what were some of your takeaways? What were some of your favorite things about BFA? Was it the raids themselves, the fights, whatever it is? I'll just let you go.
Sure, yeah. So a huge thing about this expansion, and really ever since the end of Mist of Pandaria, raiding has been trending in the right direction. I mean, if any of you guys do raiding content from Heroic to Mythic, the last bosses are unbelievably intricate. And everything leading up to that, especially like the Eternal Palace, if you guys just did the recent raid, the difficulty curve is so much better than it had been in recent past, where you really feel like in the middle of the raid, you hit something, you're like, wow, like this is really challenging. At some points, it's been where that's at the very end. I think they've done a lot better job this expansion. Also, Uldir doesn't get enough credit. Uldir is probably the best first raid of an expansion since maybe Wrath. Like, it got you right away. It wasn't an Emerald Nightmare. It wasn't it wasn't something that it wasn't something that like made you like, wow, like really, I just did all this work for this. It was like really challenging. And I really think they've done that throughout the expansion, with Crucible of Storms being a very notable, very difficult thing in the middle. I know it's kind of controversial on who was able to complete it in time. It was like very difficult for the time it was released, but I would say as a high-end raider, this expansion, the AP grinds for us have been pretty wild, to say the least, but the raiding content has been awesome, for sure.
And as far as it goes for like the other, now as high-end raiders and needing multiple alts and doing those split runs and doing all of the things to build up your Heart of Azeroth, to get all the right gear, to make sure that your character is working at its peak efficiency. Did you go mental? I mean, come on. Did you guys just go crazy?
I think you have to be a certain level of mental going into it at
Sure.
this point. Yeah. I mean, let's look at like the last raid race. Forget about the preparation. Well, I can get into preparation for a second. But like you guys watched us raid live 16 hours a day for almost 2 weeks overseas. You know, you can get 8 hours of sleep a night. The amount of mental fatigue at the end of that is jarring. Like you wake up and you're exhausted after sleeping forever. It doesn't matter.
And by the way, I just want to say a big hats off to you guys. I mean, for the community, putting together live streams so that people can watch Mythic raiding live, so that we don't have to go to WoW Progress and hit refresh all the time, wondering what's going on. And it was fantastic. Yeah. It was so great to see that stuff actually live and in real time, kind of going back and forth between the different teams and rooting for your favorites. And you guys really killed it this year too. I mean, it was this expansion. You guys have really stepped up more than I've seen previously, and it was nice to actually see it on the stream and be able to participate and be a big esports fan.
No, for sure. I mean, the way I like to describe it, and there's hats off to Method for that too, which is the other raid guild. They started that. They're a big reason for that. And why I think it's so unique. A lot of you guys work, right? You guys work. You have jobs. Imagine doing a group project with 20 people at your job, doing something very stressful that you're all very passionate about. You know what's going to happen, right? You're going to kill each other, right? It's going to be very intense. And I think that's something that we've worked really hard on, and I really hope that you guys watching it could get the feeling that, like, you know, finding that many people that care about something so much and work on it that much and get along really well is really, really unique and really an experience that I would say WoW rating really doesn't there's no other game that really competes with specifically that. And yeah, like to be able to see world first rating, I feel like kind of changes a lot of people's perspective. Like you're talking about years and years and years of when you see a mechanic, you're instantly thinking a million ways to deal with it, and it's improvising and strat making, and then all the while somehow still getting along with 20 plus people at the same time. It's really honestly pretty cool.
Well, and hearing those and seeing those nerd screams live.
Yeah, I broke a headset. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Now let's take a little bit of a look ahead. How much time do we have? We got a little bit of time, but let's take a look ahead to what we expect. 9.0. There have been lots of supposed leaks. We're expecting an announcement tomorrow, right? Because we have all of these different TBD panels. And so we've got a lot going on tomorrow for sure. But I think everybody's expecting a WoW expansion announcement. And I just want to see what you want from it. What's like one or two things that you really want to see out of this? Not necessarily predictions. We might hit on that later. But what do you want to see out of 9.0? And Jason, I think I want to start with you.
Wow. Well, what I expect to see and what I want to see are two pretty different things, I think, at the moment. What I want to see in terms of narrative, in terms of theme, I want dragons, man. I want dragons in my fantasy RPG. I want the flights to be front and center. That's the thing that's the thread that I really want to see them pull the most, because it's my favorite thing they've been doing over the last 4 years. Based on what we're seeing on the CDN, I don't think that's what we're going to see too much of, but that's what I want.
It's going to be all Death Knights.
Yes. Even the dragons are Death Knights now.
All Death Knights, yeah. Death Knights and no dragons. Towelliee?
I want to see a better leveling system. I want leveling to improve. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the original 180-hour grind, but make it worthwhile, make every level count, make every piece of gear you get while you're leveling count, even if the game is 15 years later. Let's make that happen. And then I just want to see like professions just skyrocket. I want to do like crafted legendaries, crafted best in slot weapons. I don't want my best in slot just to only come from raids. I would love to just be able to just collect items over the course of maybe an entire patch and just craft my own.
All right, Raven?
Yeah, I think really top-class storytelling. I don't think it really matters where the story goes. There's lots of hanging threads. There's lots of places they could take it, but the storytelling has been really good, so I'd like to see them build on that. Okay. I'd also like them to sort out this faction thing, like...
Faction thing? I don't know what you're talking about. Faction thing?
So are we gonna be friends now, or are we gonna end factions? I guess there's not, like, it doesn't look like it's going third faction, but like, what's the resolution to the end of the faction war? That's I wanna know what that is.
And maybe we'll find out in 8.3, or we'll find out more tomorrow at least.
Hopefully,
right? I know that for me, and I kind of touched on this before, is that better alt play. Better, have your alts actually mean something instead of like you level it up to max level and you go, okay, well, I'll see you later. I got to play my main and I'm kind of locked into that. And if I have time, maybe I'll work on my alt. Maybe. I don't know. So that's what I want out of that. Shoeboots?
I want a tinker.
Tinker.
I want a tinker so bad. I have mained a gnome, and yes, I main a gnome. Come at me, war mode is on. I have wanted the tinker for so long. I am honestly scared that they're going to announce the tinker, and it's not going to be everything I've dreamed of at this point. I want to see a tank spec based on Diva. I want to see a heal spec based on Anna, and I want to see a DPS spec based on Torbjorn. I want to see mechs that I get new skins for. I want to be the best tinker that I can be for the next 5 years. That's what I want with my life.
So he doesn't want a lot. All right. And Max, I mean, from a high level rating perspective,
yeah.
what do you want out of it?
I was about to say I would comment on the lore and stuff, but I think you guys had a good I have a lot, but I'll give a little. I think class design is the vehicle in which, whether you play this game casually or at a very, very high level, it's kind of what you use to experience the entire game. And I think a lot of what you saw in Mist of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor, for example, when you had a few more abilities, less things were on the GCD, you felt more attached to your specific class. I feel like now much of them feel very similar. So I would say maybe improving the class design in a lot of ways, which will really help a lot. And also, I think just helping and I really anticipate they'll do this. You said earlier, I don't know what I'll expect, but here's what I want. I think what they'll do is kind of take the game hopefully back to a more classic MMO experience. I think in a lot of ways, the game has evolved because it has to, because it's not 2006. Even if you've released the perfect game, you have to change it over time. No one game will last forever or be popular. And I think they've shot a couple of times in a couple of ways and missed, as like I said, they've had to. And I think what they'll do, at least in some of my talks with them, is that they really like a lot of things about Classic, and you can incorporate elements that are successful in your game that you think were good in the past. Like, I think one is leveling was brought up in Classic. Every time you level, you get one thing. In live, it's every 15 levels. That matters to someone who's first playing the game. And also, just in general, making the game feel more like it had that sense of community back in the day. And there's a lot of ways to incorporate that. I'm way too stupid to figure out how you could do it, but I think they would have a pretty good idea how. So.
Now, I know that we've talked about leveling a little bit, but do you think that they're going to do the level squish? I mean, I know that they sent out earlier this spring or summer or whatever it was, they sent out an email, and the email said, well, this is happening, right? And how do you feel about that? But that was the only thing that we heard about it. And then there's been radio silence. Do you think that, number one, do you think that they're going to do a level squish? And then the other thing would be, do you think that would be effective in helping leveling at all? And
I don't know if anything would help leveling. In fact, I think a lot of changes they'll make will be aesthetic. 60 is a smaller number. It makes it sound easier to get there. Whatever they do to do that, but I definitely believe they'll do that, because I think they'll do what they'll do in a lot of other ways, where they'll see Classic, and among Classic being great for what it is, it's one giant advertisement for them to try to reel people back into playing their retail game. So I think it's in their best interest, and probably what they're thinking, to make the game seem, even if, like I said, aesthetic, if it seems more like how it used to be, that may be something they're trying to aim for, even though it might not change the leveling experience. Like, if they change it to 60, are we going to re-level from, whatever? How? I don't know how it would work, obviously, but...
I have an idea, but I've said it on my podcast many times, and it was Paragon levels. I'm just going to throw that out there. And go to 60, and then every expansion is just like Paragon levels, and so...
I agree with you though. Every time numbers keep going and going, it seems like it doesn't feel like it matters as much. Even though it's the same thing. But yeah.
Right.
I think this game is just too old to try and make us see all of it as we level up. I think that just let us play what we want and make it as hard as Classic to level.
Make it as hard as Classic?
To level, yes. I think that that is the edge that Classic has over retail, in my opinion, is the leveling experience. I know it's difficult, but it makes you make friends, and I think that they could take parts of it, right? The one thing that sucks about Classic, probably more than anything else, is that...
Everything. right?
No.
Damn.
But that's the joy of it, right?
It's the tagging, right?
Oh, yeah.
BFA has solved this. We can have things as hard as Classic, but shared tags. And that's just one example of the way that we can take the best of both worlds and make something that has a meaningful leveling process that takes time. And you know what? Maybe you want to spend 20 to 60 in Northrend. Maybe you want to spend it in the Broken Isles. They need to just unlock all that and let us play whatever we want, but make us have to get to the end of that whole zone. Because right now, I can play a half of a zone and be done with levels 60 to 80.
Or grind mobs, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, just open it up. I don't disagree with that. That's totally cool. Towelliee, do you have any thoughts on the leveling process, since you play so many different, put time into it? Or?
I'm in favor of the squish. Let's squish it.
All
Just because, imagine I mean, it'd be great for new players too, and that's what I really always preach about. I love seeing new people playing WoW. And now imagine you purchase World of Warcraft today, and you want to play, and you're reading, oh, damn, I can't wait to start playing. Like 1 to 120, 120 levels. And imagine if there is no squish, 125, 130, 135. Where do you stop?
Right.
So to new players, it's just not really appealing. And, I want WoW to go on for decades. So I want them to maybe, squish it down, just bring us down to 70, 60, and then create really good elements of the game for post max level progression, like Paragon levels, as you were just alluding to.
Right. Now I only have one more thing to really kind of go through, and then I just want to kind of open it up to you guys to bring up whatever. I mean, if we miss something, and I know that we have. I know that there's something that maybe is an issue for you guys in particular that you wanted to bring up or to mention or just, because this is kind of almost like we're kind of putting a button on this expansion for BlizzCon. I mean, I know it's not done yet, but still, this is our only chance. So if you guys want to bring up anything after this, feel free to, just kind of spitball stuff, and then we can get to some questions. But I know that this may get some groans, but I want to talk about apps for a second because we all have phones. No, but World of Warcraft needs to.
Immortal.
Warcraft is evolving, is always constantly evolving, and we know that the mobile division of Activision Blizzard, is actually pretty strong, right? And they've got some good app developers coming in there. We know that they've been getting some more developers in on the app side of things. My question isn't what do you think is going to happen? My question is what app would be the thing? If you had one or two things that could be an app, what would it be? And Raven, I'm actually going to start with you. Especially as a more casual player, you would think that would be a lot more friendly. You'd be able to do stuff while you're working or while you're traveling to work or whatever.
It's a bit of a cliche, but pet battles.
Definitely
pet battles. On the way to work in the morning, I'd love to do a little bit of pet battle, log in when you get home, find some stuff in the mailbox. That would be amazing. Yeah, pet battles all the way. I appreciate Niantic have kind of gone there with Pokemon Go, but we could, Blizzard could do it too. It would
Sure,
be fun.
sure. And Jason, maybe I'll go down to you. Is there an app that... I like the look.
My answer really illustrates a problem with an existing feature. I want an app that realizes the potential of the communities and guild system in the game.
Okay.
The guild system badly needs an overhaul. The guild system is the backbone of the social structure of this game, and the social structure is the most important element of World of Warcraft long term. There is some integration with communities and guilds in the app now, but it's not feature rich enough. I would like an app and an overall guild UI, both in the game client and on mobile, that is useful for managing a guild, recruiting people, contacting applicants, and managing the things that you need to do away from the game, or just in a more streamlined way that people can find you and you can find people to play with. When communities came in 8.0, it just felt half delivered. Yeah. There's some nice adjustments coming in 8.3, as we've seen on PTR. It doesn't go far enough, and I think that's a great opportunity for mobile.
Well, and especially for, the communities feature for the everything. It's not enough to have 1,000 people for some of the larger communities, and I think that some of us can attest that that's cool, but that's very limiting at the same time. It's like you can't have these mega communities that people seem to gravitate towards at least some point. The smaller communities are great. They're awesome, but if you want something larger, you got to go to Discord, and that feels weird as well, right? I mean, going to a third party for that stuff. So if they're going to do it big. Make sure that it's the thing you want to use and all that kind of stuff. Max, how about you? For as far as like apps go, for I mean, just for you personally, I mean, what would you, if there were one that you would play, what would it be?
I don't know if there was something. I mean, I might play whatever. I mean, I think they could incorporate more of an app into like. I think they can improve on what they already have. Like, I think you can do so much. I think this guild is. I think this game is lacking a really good structure for guild applications that they could probably do in the game, and you can incorporate that into an app. Same thing with like Dungeon Finder. Let's say you wake up out of bed and you're like, man, I really want to run this dungeon, but I haven't had breakfast yet, and then you can just be like. You can sign up for a group and type to them and be like, hey man, I'll be on in 10 minutes, that's okay. I have more eye level than whoever you're find or whatever. Just whatever excuse you could come up with. But like just I think they can do a lot more since there's so much interaction within the game that you could do so much more of that on your phone than you can now. And specifically the guild app thing, like we don't really do applications, but I went through so many years where it's so hard to find how to do that, and it seems, at least what I get asked in the stream every day, and I have no idea how to answer it because I've been where I've been at for so long, is like, how do I move up? How do I go to here? How do I get from A to B? How do I go to a higher guild? They don't even know where to start, and I think some of that could be incorporated into their game as far as like Blizzard kind of leading the way towards that.
Okay. Towelliee, is there anything in particular? Because I know they've thrown out like stupid games. I mean, people have, like, my thing was like, if you want to make me fish, put it on a phone. That's the way I'm going to do it. I'm not going to go out.
Yeah, actually, for
I'm
sure.
not going to go out and go find a pool. Not like you need to find a pool anymore, but you just go out and you just throw a line in or whatever. Make me do it with my phone. Make me chuck my phone across the room. That would be awesome. So, is there anything?
I want to see like World of Warcraft Lite. I want to see just like a version of WoW like on mobile, whether it's a standalone game on its own or somehow connected to what we have now. But I want to be able to, use a little thumbstick thing and move.
Just
my
make it classic. It's fine.
I have something great for that. There are like Chinese mobile games that emulate WoW. Hunters have the exact same ability names. It's to the point where, and it's super popular, and there's a lot of money that goes into it. And it's like there's such a market for that. If someone could have a WoW on their phone that they could kind of do like some dungeons on, it's completely different, and it's like separate from their account, they would love that, I think.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Shoeboots?
Yeah, I would like to see. I would like to see a collections app, like an app that allows me to browse all the transmogs and create plans to get those transmogs. Create plans. There's a great website called Simple Armory that will plot a course for you on how to go around the whole world and farm every mount you don't have. I'd like to be able to customize that and set that up. I would love, and Blizzard, if you're listening, and I know you are because Ian Hazakostas is standing right there. I'm just kidding, he's not.
I looked.
That was pretty good.
I look too.
Yeah, I looked.
By the way, I did see him earlier tonight, and he double-taked at my shirt, and I'm not going to sleep tonight trying to figure out what that means. I spend a lot of time in-game just staring at different transmogs and looking at them.
Oh,
and
transmog,
how can I
yeah.
get them? And I would just love to be able to plot that out so that when I get home, something pops up on my client that says, go here, go here, go here, kill this, kill this, kill this.
And also something that does your transmog offline so that you can just pop in and just put on an outfit.
Yeah. I would have to take a lot more bathroom breaks at work if they had that.
Well, that's all right.
One thing before going on, so I did earlier, I heard a scream come here for some Alliance stuff. You guys all mentioned what faction you all play on, and there was a pretty loud roar in here, but I'd like to make it known that there is someone on the desk that is in a Horde guild.
Right. Now there's, and the problem is that he could kick all of our butts. So, that's always nice. I do want to leave this open for questions, so we can get that stuff ready. But I just want to talk to you guys and just see if there's anything else that you wanted to mention about anything that maybe we didn't cover or didn't cover enough that you wanted to make sure that we talked about on this panel. Anybody over there? Jason?
One thing I would love to see Team 2 stop doing is allied races as we know them. If you pay the money and you buy the game and you subscribe to the game, you should be able to make whatever character you want. And locking allied races behind rep requirements and other questing requirements, it was cool in 7.3.5 when there was nothing else to do for a year. It hasn't been cool since then. It wasn't cool in 8.0, and it isn't cool now. I know quite a few people who were lapsed players who approached me as BFA was coming out. They're like, I really want to play a Dark Iron Dwarf. And I said, well, you better start playing right now. And they didn't listen to me, and they paid the money, and they were like, this sucks, I'm not playing this. Allied races are a cool concept, but prestige cosmetics can be introduced into the game in other ways for very dedicated players. The races and the character that you pick and customize should be open to everybody who pays the money.
All right. All right. Anything else as far as the...
I just think we are, and I'm saying this as someone who has loved the systems as they've come, I'm ready for a back to basics expansion. And whether that means squish, whether that means best in slot list, whatever that means, I'm ready to tone it down and just less loot, harder fights, and maybe not at your level, but
No, harder fights are always good.
We've added so much complexity over the years, and again, I'm not complaining about that. I think that's a natural progression for something like this. It's lasted so long because it's so great, but it's time. It's time to just dial it back. And
Strip it all back.
That's really what I would love to see tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Should we do just some light predictions? Not necessarily go into too much detail, but like just give us the high point predictions, and then we can move on to questions. Max, I'll start with you.
I have two. So I have for 8.3, I think they have waited this long for some hype announcement. I think they're going to announce account-wide essences for 8.3. That's my guess for tomorrow. If you think about it, if they announced it earlier, people would have been grinding less, and that wouldn't have been as good. So they're like waiting a little bit longer into the thing, and not until it's like right before, so everyone gets super mad. I think they're going to announce 8.3 because they haven't commented on it. It's a very, very talked about issue between casual and like very, very hardcore players. So there's that. And in the next expansion, just kind of along the lines of what I was saying before, my prediction is that they'll like you said, in a lot of ways, aesthetically and in reality, roll back the clock, make it appear and be a lot more like what an MMO used to be. I don't know exactly what they would do for that, but I would say one thing is that I hope they announce this and I hope they do this. But I think there should be a change in dungeons too. I think, especially as you can see the MDI, which is super cool. It kind of seems like this, like you watch it, it's very good. It's the same. I think there's been a lot of this around where like they already have a time walking system where they every season, instead of